Hi, my name is Sharon Lynn Williams and welcome to my watercolor workshop. Today we're going to be studying a landscape painting with mountains from near my home in Calgary, Alberta. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about the procedure. This video is aimed at a beginner to experienced beginners, and hopefully will catch you up on a whole bunch of things you might have missed along the way and just reinforce some really good principles. So to begin with, I think I would like to introduce you to my partners, my paints and my brushes and my materials. So, first of all, the paints. We have a standard palette. When you get a palette like this, make sure that you scrub the surface with Comet so that takes some of the sheen away. And that will allow your paint to nicely flow onto the palette. Now I'm going to focus on the secret of how to be a loose watercolor painter. And that's in the careful planning that goes before the execution of the painting. So here I have a mock-up of a sample design just to show you through the process. This is the photograph that I took. It's a photograph that was taken late in the day out at the Leighton Centre. It's just outside of Calgary. So you can see the mountains, but they're very far away and very blurry. But this was the starting point for this exercise. So the first step is to draw out the sketch just like it looks in the photo. If you reduce everything down to its basic lines, it's really easy to see the shape, and the shape is the most important thing. Okay, so here these are the shapes just like they are in the photograph, and you can see that shapes don't interlock, they don't overlap, and they're not interesting. There's even distribution between the planes, and that's not interesting. So the job of us as artists is to redesign this painting to make it have a compelling and an interesting composition. So in this case, I focused on the picture and focused on the mountains. So the mountains take up a larger space. In this one, the focus is on the trees. So now the mountains aren't there at all, and the largest space is the trees. This one focuses on the bales of hay. Because they're small shapes, they can't be the biggest shapes, but the tree shapes have been minimized in order for you to focus on those bale shapes. And this last one focuses on the sense of place. It has the mountains, it has the trees, and it has the bale of hay. So I have 4 different painting ideas here that would each make a wonderful painting. And I'm going to pick from this grouping which one I feel captures how I wanted to portray this painting and the kind of feeling that I wanted you to get. So I wanted to focus on the sense of place. So what I've done here is I've drawn it a little bit bigger and really paid attention to the shapes, making sure that all the shapes were varying. I had shapes that interlocked and overlapped with each other, and that the planes worked very well. So I'm going to show you the stroke that I'm going to use for the sky, okay, and the cloud edge. And basically, you're going to be painting the clouds negatively. So I'm just going to mix up a little bit of ultramarine blue here, and a little bit of phthalo. These are fresh pigments. I've just squeezed them, so every once in a while you might hear me go, whoa, because they're fresh paints and you can actually get so much paint on there. So I'm going to test this value out to see how that value looks, and it's not too bad. All right, so I'm going to show you this stroke. Now you want to hold your brush from the top, okay? Instead of holding it like a pen, like you're going to write your name, I want you to hold the brush from the top, and we're actually going to be painting with the underside bristles of this. It's going to run it parallel, just hovering over the page, and it's the ridges on the paper are going to pick up some of the paint. And a very light touch, and it's just sort of, see how that makes this beautiful crackly kind of edge? Then you can go back and fill this in and deal with that edge. But that's going to give me this nice crisp edge for the clouds. You can manipulate this as much as you want. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to paint with the underside of the bristles. This is also the stroke I'm going to use in painting the foliage, which is just going in the opposite direction, painting positively out, and it gives you this beautiful tree form. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pre-wet the back of this sky. This is going to actually get darker over here later, but I don't want to have to worry about this edge back here while I'm trying to paint around these clouds, because that's my focus. Okay, As I said, I want it darker over here. I put water on here already, so that's going to lighten the pigment. So just to get into the habit of feeling what this is going to feel like, that value is going to be too light in the end, but I can always come back and change it. As long as I keep adding paint there, it's going to stay wet. I can play with that for as long as I can keep it wet, and there won't be a problem. Okay, so now that's nice and dry. These colors are a little bit more neutral than I would have liked, than I initially had in my mind. But you have to sort of go with how things are happening. Except I lost my brush. Here it is. How things are happening on the page. I can pick up and brighten up the color, and I want to make sure that I do that. I don't want this to be very naturalistic. I would like some of the impression of the day, the peace, the liveliness, the joy that I felt when I was there. So as I'm painting in these distant ridges here, I'm going to make them a little bit more colorful than you would normally imagine that they would be. Okay, so now I'm going to paint in these distant ridges, which again have to be darker than the previous ridges so that they'll come forward. I want them to be a little bit warmer and more colorful as well. Okay, so my plan here is to drop all kinds of really nice color into that wash, so I have to make sure that I keep this wet enough. And I'm going to paint over top of this second ridge, and then I'll come in when that's dry and paint it in again, because I would like this to be quite a bit darker. So I'm going to come in and paint these areas now with some little bit nicer color, a little bit some of those fall colors that might be happening up on these. These are rocks, and this is foothills, so there's some color that's happening in there. So, and I have to remember, according to my value study, that this is going to be darker. This is going to be darker than this, and this is going to be darker than that. So I'm going to go and get my more neutral warms now, that quinacridone gold and that quinacridone burnt orange, which are wonderful, wonderful warm gold colors, and they'll just really sing up there. So let's just start with something. You know, we've got to start with something. So let's start with that. Now that's very bright, and I go, oh, as soon as I see that. But I'm going to puddle into that. So now I'm going to pick up some other color, and I'm going to change that color. I might use some of this turquoise in here, this phthalo turquoise. And if I put that phthalo turquoise all by itself on the paper there, it's going to be ugly and garish. But if I put it so that it mixes with something else, it's not going to be so bad. My sun's coming from this side, so if this gets lighter as it goes over here, that's fine. It can get lighter even and warmer as it comes over here. I can always adjust it. And remember I said I was going to paint over this place later. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint around these trees so that I'm get another chance at reshaping these trees.